means that as
more.
big as that thing was, it should have crashed and killed us all, or unleashed the alien horde.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been, and obviously it would have been enormous to be the scale it was in that photograph.
We'd have seen it
but
all the time.
It would have been an altitude of thousands of miles.
Yeah.
Not just, and so, yeah, the whole thing is just absurd.
So what I want people to do is I want them to keep this in mind and keep an objective view on this so that when they're looking at it and they can kind of pull the details out and not just take the bait and just swallow it all at once, but really try to figure out what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Or what you're being told.
You'd have to be pretty damn gullible to look at that photograph and think it has anything to do with the Black Knight satellite, don't you think?
Well, in the original image that I showed you guys, it looks kind of metallic spaceshipy because it's zoomed and it's fuzzed.
Yeah.
And I can see how somebody, without taking context into it, would be like, whoa, what the heck is that?
Yeah, I mean, in the original photo, if you're just looking at within the confines of a website or something like that, you're not going to see the hair. You're not going to see all of the other stuff that's
cropped.
there. It's all cropped, and it does. I've seen that picture before, and it's hard to kind of step away from that and say, oh, there could totally be something else going on there. It's easy to take it at face value, and we do that a lot.
Yeah.
Next theory on the docket.
What's that?
This is really just a bunch of stories that have been jammed together with hot glue to make it the Black Knight satellite.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get why I make the hot glue reference? Do you remember when you were a kid and you were in art class and you would hot glue stuff together and it would just come out to be this gnarly, gross mass of stuff? Did you ever do that?
No, because I was an artist.
Yeah, me too.
I'm an artist too, but I was still a kid.
Nah.
No, we didn't use hot glue in my art class. We used welding equipment.
No, I was just thinking, I was trying to figure out if you were talking about a bunch of different stories jammed together or a bunch of different things jammed together, like in that episode of Futurama.
Oh, no, this is not the Futurama.
Not
This is a bunch of stories jammed together.
Got it.
Which, I know that the pair of you do this, and we've just been kind of harping on this, is that when we start looking at these things, each individual piece in context, suddenly it becomes much easier to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do is we've already walked through this entire story. We're now going to walk through a number of pieces of the story in sequence again to kind of shine some light on some things that were going on.
Sounds good.
Yeah, there was a lot of that stuff was just BS.
Well, let's start with Nikola Tesla, because he's where we started in the beginning. Today, we do know that Tesla was picking up a repeating signal. But what he was picking up was a pulsar.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
We didn't know about pulsars in 1899. We didn't really figure out what they were officially or classify them until 1968. Pulsars put out radio waves in a very specific pattern that's repeating.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know that. So he took his best guess. I totally understand that. I don't fault Tesla for that, but that's what that was. So I can't say that's the Black Knight satellite. We'll move forward to LDEs.
Yeah.
We don't really know exactly what LDEs are today, but there's over a dozen theories out there. But basically, what we think is going on is that a couple of the theories is that it's possible that radio waves are being picked up and caught in aurora activity caused by solar storms, which is holding on to them before they get spun down to Earth.
There was just a really interesting article released about aurora energy and how it affects the Earth. We'll post it on Facebook eventually. But
nice.
No,
just saying, literally today there was a new study.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that today.
It was very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do we got? The next one up is it's reflections in the ionosphere that are caused by the magnetosphere.
Yeah, like radio skipping.
Yeah, it's radio skipping is exactly what it is.
Yep.
And actually, the thing about the reflection, the radio skipping, is it's actually refraction. It's actually that thing's not bouncing off the ionosphere. And I talked about this in the LBE, Lost Boy Larry. LBL. Is that they are actually refracted back downward by the ionosphere. And a similar phenomenon happens under the ocean. Submarine sonars, the passive sonars, will pick up the same signal at two different times because they travel basically different pathways to get to you. You're listening with your hydrophone, and you hear the same noise twice because it takes two different paths to get there. It's being refracted up and down one way, And
Bouncing off the bottom of the ocean and the top of the ocean?
Essentially, it's a similar kind of thing. Like a sound layer is a similar kind of thing as what the ionosphere does.
Oh,
and that is it'll bounce off the bottom of the ocean. Then it goes up to a sound to like a layer where there's say a sharp difference in temperature, and there are temperature gradients like that in the ocean. And it doesn't. It's some people look at it as bouncing up, but really what happens is it goes up into that and is refracted, bent back downwards.
Got it.
So it's refracted, not really reflected.
Okay.
And
well,
so
I stand corrected.
And so, no, I'm not correcting you. But what I'm saying is that what the experience what the Navy's experience with sonar is a similar thing, where something will follow two different tracks to get to the same place, and it gets there at different times. The noise does.
Yeah, it's
the
a
same thing
weird
can happen
phenomena.
with radio waves. Yeah, but it's not really unexplainable.
No, it's weird. But here's the last one that we've got for LDEs, which is it may be that the radio signals are getting trapped between ionized layers in the atmosphere.
Yep.
Because we do know that happens. There's ionization up there, and it's kind of bouncing around, and then it quote unquote falls out a hole or bounces out a hole that's in the bottom. Now it's quite as likely that some of them that get trapped in there are bouncing out of holes in the top and shooting into space, but the ones we're picking up are falling out of the bottom.
Yeah.
So that's what's causing the delays. They're skipping around until they finally find a hole to bounce out of.
Yeah. And see, the other thing about the LDEs is, and actually a lot of this, is that if it's an alien satellite, then why is it messing around with this whole LDE crap? It's either going to be totally in stealth mode, or it's going to be sending us direct transmission saying, "Hey there, how's it going?" Hey,
my name is Garfield, and I like
Booties.
lasagna, and come see me.
Yeah, come to Booties because we really want to meet you. And
Our English isn't good yet. It's
yeah. We didn't mean that at all. And so I don't think it's going to be doing weird stuff like rebroadcasting our radio waves to us. That's stupid.
I'll get on board with that.
Yeah.
Let's move forward. 1954. Remember we talked about the newspaper reporting of the two satellites that were in a polar orbit?
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out that's not real reporting.
What is it?
It's a couple of reporters and a couple of papers evidently ripping off the dust jacket of a UFO book.
Oh.
Some guy was trying to sell his book about UFOs, and they were having a little fun, and they took some stuff directly out of it and published it, and people picked it up and believed it.
Yeah.
And really, it was just kind of a big joke. I think it was an inside joke that gained more life than they ever thought it would.
What was the date? Was that April 1st? 1954?
I don't know that it was April 1st, but yeah, so that's what's going on there. Let's move forward again. We're going to talk about 1960 and what the U.S. Air Force or the U.S. government found. Here's what's going on in 1960. Remember there was that unknown dark tumbling object that was picked up and everybody kind of wigged out because we're in Cold War times?
That was Black Knight Satellite.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
That wasn't?
At the time, so we're talking late 59, all of 60, part of 61, we're putting rockets up.
Oh, yeah.
And it's part of the Discoverer program, where the Discoverer program is going to put satellites out so that we can figure out what's in space, what's on Earth. We're going to figure out all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
we
the idea.
figured it out already, right?
We did now.
Space is done.
But yeah,
not a mystery at all.
Space is so boring.
We get
now.
it. Okay.
We get it.
Got it.
Turns out, 1992, the CIA, I think it was through the Freedom of Information Act because it was no longer classified. We found out the CIA was involved in the Discoverer program, and they were putting up. Is it Corona?
The Corona satellites?
The Corona satellites. And it sounds like, Joe, you actually have a pretty good idea of what the Corona satellites were, or had you just kind of gone through them?
Yeah, so Corona was really the earliest spy satellite, at least that we had. And what Corona did is it would be in a polar orbit, as we talked about before, for surveying and spying polar low altitude orbits to the best. And it had a number of high definition, really big cameras in it that took a lot of photographs, and then
like 8,000 per.
Yeah, it would just use up its entire roll, and then the camera would be ejected by the satellite, and it would fall into the atmosphere, and it would deploy a parachute, and then this airplane would come along and snag it in midair. I mean, it was really an elaborate operation, and luckily these days we've got electronic. We can just broadcast digital images back.
Much easier.
Yeah, I know.
way easier.
We didn't have that back in those days. We didn't have digital imaging, so they actually had to take film and eject it. And imagine how beautifully timed that had to be.
It had to be amazing.
That plane had to be just in the perfect right spot. At
Well,
the
they
exact
lost
right
a
time.
number of those satellites when they, or the bucket. They called it the bucket.
Yeah.
When it dropped its bucket, they lost a number of buckets, and the first one that they lost eventually was found in Venezuela. And once it was found, they realized that what they needed to do was stop stenciling top secret on it.
Yeah.
Oh
And
my
instead,
God.
they put some reward information in 22 languages all over it, so people would turn it in.
That's the
Smart.
most amazing
Smart
thing I've
move.
ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't look at this. It's top secret. Totally top secret.
Guys, it's top secret. Don't touch it.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing: is that so we've talked about the Corona program. Well, what happened is Discover 8. There evidently was some kind of malfunction, and when it went to drop its bucket, its orbit was messed up, and a big chunk of it came off in an unexpected way, and it tumbled around the Earth. Gosh, when was it? It came back in. It re-entered the atmosphere in March of 1960, and they're pretty sure the bucket came back down, or probably around that time, because it didn't dump the bucket as it was intended. But that was in a polar orbit and would have been in an erratic orbit because it was screwed up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty positive that that's what was being picked up, because the CIA isn't going to tell the U.S. Air Force what they've got up there because it's so secret. They're not going to just spill, sorry, Ted, this is what it is.
Yeah.
No, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Particularly if it involves